Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, The Eclectic Reader. So today I would like to talk about two cozy mysteries that I recently finished. So in March, I am participating in March Mystery Madness, and cozy mysteries are my favorite mysteries. And so I wanted to talk about two that I read recently, which I really liked, one much more than the other, but both of them I gave at least 3 stars to. So the first book I gave 3.5 stars to, and that's Murder Wears White, which is book 2 of the Wedding Planner series by Stephanie Blackmoore. I read book 1 in February and I gave it 5 stars. So this book I felt was significantly weaker, mostly because there were way too many plot lines. So in this book, Mallory and her sister Rachel are living in this historic mansion that Mallory inherited in the first book from her ex-fiance's grandmother, Sylvia. In the second book, she is transforming this mansion into a bed and breakfast and a wedding venue. But there's a long way to go before this bed and breakfast is even ready for any clients. However, there is a woman, I believe her name is Whitney if I remember, and she would like to get married as soon as possible in the next 2 to 3 months because her father is passing away from some mysterious illness. So she really wants to get married so that he can walk her down the aisle. But like I said, this mansion is far from ready. And then Whitney's aunt is found dead, poisoned by an arsenic-laden Tic Tac. And it seems as if Whitney has a story herself. Over a decade before, her mother had gone missing and then was found dead. And the person who was accused of killing her is now in prison. The defense attorney was Mallory's now boyfriend. And then there's some concern that maybe the mansion is haunted. There are many plot points. Some of them I think are more convincing and compelling than others. And it's ultimately why I decided to give it 3 stars. It just didn't always make sense to me. Although at the end, I found the various outcomes to be fairly satisfying. There are always several killers, or several criminals rather, in Stephanie Blackmoore's mysteries. So if you like a more complex mystery, I do recommend this series. I certainly will be continuing. I find Mallory and Rachel to be a wonderful pairing. They are very different kinds of characters. Mallory is much more, I wouldn't say reserved, but she's the good girl, whereas Rachel is a bit more wild. She's always having boyfriends. She dresses very differently than Mallory, and yet they work very well together. Rachel is a great baker and she wins baking competitions, so Mallory really needs her help, and Rachel is always coming up with really creative ideas to upgrade Sylvia's mansion. This was a good story, not my favorite, but I will certainly be continuing. And the second book that I read is Matchmaking Can Be Murder by Amanda Flower, which is the first book in the Amish Matchmaker mystery series. Now, I know that Amanda Flower has written several series that feature an Amish sleuth or are set in an Amish town, but this is the first book that I've read in that context. In this book, Millie Fisher is our Amish sleuth. She is returned to Harvest, Ohio. All of Amanda Flower's books, by the way, take place in Ohio, which I love because I'm from Northeast Ohio and Amanda Flower is from Northeast Ohio. Harvest is probably in Southern Ohio, I assume, because there is quite a large Amish community in Southern Ohio. But anyway, Millie is returning to Harvest, Ohio after spending over a decade taking care of her sister, who has since passed away in Michigan. Millie is a widow herself, and it seems like actually there are quite a few widows in this book. She has 2 very rambunctious goats named Peter and Paul. And she's also a self-professed matchmaker. So she is wanting to help her cousin Edith find a good husband. She is betrothed to Zeke Miller. And Millie doesn't think that Zeke is really right for Edith. She doesn't get the impression that Edith really loves Zeke. And so Millie convinces Edith to break up their relationship. And Edith goes along because she acknowledges the fact that she doesn't love Zeke. She just wants someone to take care of her children and to help run the greenhouse, because she has this business where she sells plants. Even though she really has a great business acumen, she needs a man to run the household, because this is, of course, a patriarchal community, and that's the norm. Her first husband had a lot of problems. He had passed away, so she didn't want to make the same mistake twice. But on the day that she breaks up with Zeke, he is found dead in her greenhouse. Edith is a suspect. And then there's this English woman. So English is what the Amish call everybody else. There's this English woman named Darcy, I believe is her name. She works at a cafe nearby. And her grandmother, Lois, is a childhood friend of Millie's. Darcy is also a suspect, because it turns out that Zeke was seeing Darcy while he was also engaged to Edith. So Millie and Lois, they are such different characters. Lois has brightly colored hair. She has been married 4 times. She had 4 different husbands. Millie, of course, is Amish. Lois is English. They are such different people, but they are very good friends, and they decide to join up together. It's mostly Lois's idea to help exonerate Edith and Darcy, but also to find out who actually killed Zeke. I felt like Amanda Flower really depicted the Amish well. She clearly did a lot of research to make sure to represent their culture accurately, but they're also not stereotyped. We get to appreciate how diverse Amish communities can be. Even while the Amish do not use technology generally, at times they're allowed to use technology in emergency situations. And this is the case in this book. When Edith finds Zeke dead in her greenhouse, she does use a landline phone to call the police. There are other situations in which the Amish can use technology, at least this district, because there are different districts. And I was also found it really funny how nosy the Amish in this book are. They're always gossiping. And while there is a bishop, and the bishop is a man, it's really his wife Ruth who is always getting in the way, always wanting to know everything that's going on. She wants to control events. And it's probably the case that she sort of runs her husband's household. There are a lot of strong women in this book. I really like Millie. She is in her 60s. There are a lot of, older adults who have quite a lot of influence in this community. It's a very diverse book in many ways, despite the fact that it takes place in what might otherwise appear to be a very homogeneous community. I look forward to reading more, and I was very satisfied by the conclusion. It wasn't tremendously surprising, but I felt like it made sense and that there was really nice closure at the end. Lois and Millie also make a really fun pair, and Millie's goats are crazy. So definitely recommend, and we'll be reading more in this series. Let me know if you've read any other books by Amanda Flower or Stephanie Blackmoore. And if you're new here, I hope that you will stick around and subscribe. Thank you everybody for watching, and I will talk to you later. Bye now.